Welcome to the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale, but today we're talking about all scales and specifically a new throttle by Digitrax. I have in my hand right now to the UT6, which is a tethered UT6 new. This is the UT4, one of the older models, which I've had those around for a little bit. Here's the duplex version. You notice there's no cord because it is a radio. And here's an even older one. This is the DT402R, which is simplex radio. And then lastly, you have the main chip or main flag of the Digitrax throttles, the 602D for duplex again. But I'm going to take a look at the UT6. I really like the Digitrax throttles. These two I picked up from Lombard Hobbies for $139. That's the DT602, I believe. Anyway, so I picked up a couple of these duplex ones. I had bought one duplex and then two that were non-duplex and tethered. And after using the tethered ones for a little bit, I was like, why am I getting tethered? There's only a $50 difference between the two. So I talked to Digitrax. They were happy to take back my tethered ones and was able to get a couple of duplex. So now I have three of these, three of the UT6D Utility throttle, the 6th version, and it's a duplex, which is a pretty good radio system. Comes with the manual, as you can see there. I usually just download the manual off their website and then read the manual off of there. I don't really refer to the paper manual very much. In the box, you have the throttle, the manual, which we just saw, and then we also have a lanyard and then a local net cord. So this is the throttle itself. It's similar in a lot of ways to the DT602, except it just has control of one train at a time, not the dual knobs or dual throttles. That's the local net cord that comes with it, and there's the lanyard. This utility throttle is not, though, able to program locomotives. It can do pretty much everything else that the DT602 does, except for the programming part. And to be honest with you, I use mostly JMRI Decoder Pro for programming, so not really that big a deal. Now, one thing I do for these, I don't use the lanyard, but I do use a little cord there with a ring, and that way I can hang it on the layout. I've tried the lanyard, but it's really kind of, I don't feel comfortable with it hanging around my neck. One thing I really like about this throttle is it feels great in your hand. You can hold it, and it just is the right size. The UT4s and the UT1s just were too boxy and didn't really fit that great. And this one here, you can do it with your forefinger for the toggle. That's something that's different also from the DT602. This has a physical toggle as opposed to a soft button for throwing the direction. Then you, of course, need batteries for these. And I have some rechargeable batteries by EBL, 2800 microamp hours on them. That's pretty high. I think it's about the highest you can get. One thing you need to make sure you put the batteries in the correct way. Now, I'm doing it wrong according to the directions I just noticed. You're supposed to put the positive in first. I don't think it really makes that big of a difference. But you do need to make sure you don't get them oriented the wrong way. Now, these EBL batteries, the EBL is on the positive side, so definitely have to make sure you put them in correctly. If you get them backwards, you'll fry a chip and you'll have to send the throttle back. Alright, so the batteries are in, and we can now go ahead and work with the throttle. Now the direction toggle, it's to the right for forward, to the left for reverse, and in the middle is the brake button. So you can go ahead and throw that back and forth, and then again the middle is for brake. One thing I noticed is that when you select a new locomotive, the direction of the throttle does not always match the toggle. So that one says forward, and yet it's on reversed. So you have to press it over. Now it's forward, and you can go back again, and it's reverse. So sometimes you just have to kind of watch that when you first select a locomotive. The locomotive might be in a different direction than what your toggle is, and so you just have to throw the throttle back and forth a little bit. As you can see, I'm selected throttle 1555 there. Here's the menu, and I went ahead and selected for the options, and you can go up and down, and using the two buttons for up and down, and then the right button is for changing the option. And I usually will do a couple of things. I usually turn the ballistic part off. I don't really like the ballistic part of it. And then I also have it so that the screen stays on as long as possible, and that you can bring the screen back on again by pushing any button. So those are usually the different ones that I change on the menu screen. I also usually have it so that the duplex is always on, and the IR, that's the infrared, is always off. And I don't change the brightness of the screen. The brightness of the screen is fine, or the brightness of the buttons. That really doesn't come into play unless you're running at night. Usually you can't see the buttons light up unless it's dark in the room. So when I have it in my left hand, I usually use my thumb, but you can use your finger too. But it definitely can be done with a one-hand operation. Now again, here you can see the difference between the two. The UT4 is definitely much more boxy. The UT6 is definitely much more ergonomic. Feels good in your hand, is easy to operate all the necessary buttons and everything. Selecting with the dials was always a little difficult, and then selecting the different functions on the UT4, you have to press the shift, which is blue, to get the blue ones to come on. So shift to get the blue ones, and then the shift off to get the other ones. So here you do a little bit different method. You can press this F button, and it goes from 0 to 1 to 2. If it's 0, then the digits 0 through 9 will do 0 through 9. If you're on 1, it'll do the teens, 10 through 19, and if you're on 2, it'll do the 20s, 20 through 29. One thing you are able to do very easily with this is to throw turnouts. So you press the S button right below the throttle there to go into switch mode, and as you can see, the 98 came up. I actually once you press the S, I pressed 9 and 8, which is address 98, and then if you press the F key, it'll go from close to thrown and close to throw, back and forth. So it's very convenient that you can actually do the switches very easily. Here's what the comparison between the two. One thing I would do differently, I don't know why they always have the locomotive address so big. To me, I'd rather have the speeds number bigger. So it's very small. You can kind of see it going back and forth. A little bit more menu options on the DT602. And of course you have 2 throttles. And this one also is pretty ergonomic. It's just bigger though. It's a little bit more clumsy. And if you're you can't really put it in your pocket or anything, or use a lanyard. Sometimes if I'm walking around, it'll actually turn the knob as I'm walking. These are the 6 throttles that we use. I should say 5 throttles that we use now. They're all radio control. They all have digital readouts for the speed, which is important because we have it set so that the speed percentage is the same as the scale miles per hour. So that all works out real nice. We use the older tethered throttles, the UT4s, for the Evanston Yard, UTLX Repair Shop, and West Vaco. This is what we use for duplex receiver. It's the UR93, which is much better than the one that goes into the panel. That one can basically cover my whole layout. So I only have one receiver, and it's pretty centrally located, but no matter where I am in the basement, you can get a good signal. And the other side of the staging yard's over there, but just from this one receiver here, complete coverage. One thing I really like about the throttle is it fits real nicely in my pocket. So definitely if I'm at an operating session, it'd be nice to be able to just stick it in there without any problems. It doesn't turn the dial when I put it in there, which I think is important. So definitely like that. All right, so 8 starts the locomotive up. It has a lock sound 5 decoder in it. There's a 2 for the horn, 1 for the bell. And then the lights, 0 for the headlight, and 3 for the rear light, 7 for dim, and we go ahead and start it up. I think it's definitely one of the best utility throttles as far as having a screen. You can see what the speed step is at, which is important because we try and follow scale miles per hour on the layout. So it's real important that we actually had a speed readout. So if it says 20% on the throttle, that means you're going 20 scale miles per hour on the layout. And we do have speed restrictions across the main line, so that's real important. But definitely is very nice. You see a little bit of the brake action. If you put it in the middle, it will go to brake. I find it better to use a knob rather than the brake because you don't get the when this goes to 0, you have a little bit of the brake squeal at the end, which you don't always get if you just have the throttle be the one that turns it down. So I don't ever use the brake button, but I know a lot of people do, and it comes in handy. So the Digitrax UT6D Throttle, duplex radio throttle. I highly recommend it. I definitely like using it on the layout. It's very easy to use. It's very comfortable to use and is very responsive and is laid out user-friendly, in my opinion. It's $140 at Lombard Hobbies. That's the cheapest I found it anywhere. The tethered one without the radio was $90, so it's a $50 difference. If you have a small layout, We'll go ahead and get the tethered. You wouldn't really need the duplex, but if you have a large layout like mine, duplex is definitely the way to go. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great week. Take care.